I skipped my own mom's funeral to be there for my girlfriend's art show. That same night, she put a TikTok up saying I'm dating a walking wallet. Man, reading that still feels like a gut punch, even now, typing it all out. I've been wrestling with this for ages, and I finally figured I needed to just get it out. Maybe putting it down on paper will help me figure out how things went so sideways. I guess the best place to start is with Cleo, my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend now, of course. She was 24 and we'd been together for 3 years. We met at this cool little indie bookstore coffee shop. It's gone now. Some fancy real estate deal killed it. I was working on some freelance design stuff, and she was putting up posters for her first art show. She had this crazy, huge, curly hair, paint all over her hands, and this wild energy. It was like she woke the whole place up. I asked her about her art. She just rolled her eyes and said it wasn't art, it was survival. That probably should have been a red flag, but I was already hooked. She was so smart, intense, and completely unpredictable. I'd had a few casual relationships before, but Cleo. She made me feel like I was on the verge of something amazing, like life could be a total mess and still be beautiful. I figured we had this perfect balance, you know? Her chaotic artist thing and my logical designer side, total opposites, but I thought it worked. Even from the start, though, things were pretty rough. Cleo was all about living in the moment, always chasing the next big thing. This meant she hopped from job to job the second things got dull, jumped between projects, and barely made ends meet. Structure wasn't her thing, not at all. Me? I had a steady remote job doing UX design for a medium-sized tech company. I loved my spreadsheets, my to-do lists, my early morning jogs. She always joked that I was stuck in a rut, that I needed to live a little more and plan a little less. At first, her teasing didn't bother me. Things got really tricky around our second year together. I noticed Cleo hadn't paid rent in months. She always had some excuse. A gallery promised her a show, then canceled. A big commission fell through. Her Venmo was frozen, her PayPal hacked. It was always something. I covered the difference each time, figuring it was just a temporary blip. Artists struggle, that's just part of the deal, right? I had no idea how serious it was until tax season hit. I saw then that Cleo hadn't paid for groceries, rent, utilities, nothing. For 9 months, zip, zero. I talked to her real gently, just suggested we figure out a better way to split the bills. She got quiet, then hit me with, "Wow, I thought you were supporting my dream." That just stopped me cold. She was a pro at making me feel like the bad guy for wanting things to be fair. My relationship with my mom has always been, well, complicated. She was tough as nails, raised 3 kids alone after my dad took off. She wasn't exactly warm and fuzzy, but she was always there for us. My older brother, Damon, nicknamed her the Iron Wall. Renee, my younger sister, called her Momzilla, but to me, she was just Mom. Things had been a little strained since I moved in with Cleo. It was partly the distance, but mostly it was because Cleo and Mom just didn't click. Cleo thought Mom was super judgmental and cold as ice, and Mom thought Cleo was reckless and didn't have any respect. Honestly, neither of them was entirely wrong. Even so, I'd call Mom every couple of weeks and she'd always end the call with, "Don't forget where you came from." I wasn't sure how seriously to take it when Renee texted me that Mom had been in and out of the hospital. Renee's always a bit over the top. Everything's either a total disaster or a miracle with her. I told Renee to keep me updated and said I'd come visit as soon as Cleo's art show wrapped up. Cleo finally got a spot at this hip gallery in Rio, a downtown place that showcases up-and-coming artists and influencers. She was completely obsessed. Weeks went by and it was all she talked about. Then bam, Renee texted, "She's gone." No warning, just those 2 words. My gut just dropped. I stared at the message for ages. It felt like an hour before I even showed Cleo. She just blinked, gave me this weird hug, and then asked, "So what does this mean for the show?" Seriously, that was her first question. I told her I had no idea. The funeral was Saturday and the show was Friday night. I figured I'd fly out after the opening and still make it. Maybe that was a dumb idea. I guess I just couldn't bring myself to let Cleo down. I'd already invested so much in her art show, the framing, the insurance, even some of the prints. She kept saying this was it, her big break, and I believed her. So I went, stuck around the whole time, faked a smile when people praised her work, told her how amazing she was, even took pictures for her social media. Later that night, back in our apartment, I was drowning in sympathy messages from my family when I saw at Cleo's TikTok. Just her, standing in the gallery, zooming in on that necklace I'd bought her, lip-syncing to some stupid trending sound. The caption, "POV, you're dating a walking wallet." I watched it twice, hoping I'd misread something, but nope, no irony whatsoever. The comments were all laughing emojis and girl boss this and as you should that. I was speechless. I hadn't even begun to deal with my mom's death. I hadn't even gone to her funeral. I missed my own mom's funeral. That's when it hit me things had to change. But you know what? That wasn't even the worst of it. I just sat there in my office chair, staring at that TikTok video like it was some alien artifact I couldn't understand. Those words, POV, you're dating a walking wallet, kept echoing in my head. The more I thought about it, the more it felt like a punch to the gut, completely unexpected. And yet, maybe I should have seen it coming. I'd seen the writing on the wall for ages, pretending it wasn't there, hoping things would magically get better. But now it was impossible to ignore. The silence was what killed me. I could barely hear the fridge humming in the kitchen. I glanced at the clock. 10:37 p.m. I was totally beat, worn out, but I couldn't let it go. I had to deal with her right then. I went into the living room, and Cleo was on the couch, glued to her phone. She didn't even notice me. "I saw your TikTok," I said, trying to sound calm. She looked up, a little smirk playing on her face. "Oh yeah, it's going viral. Everyone loves it." She just didn't get it. "Is that really what you think of me, that I'm just someone to pay your bills?" My heart started racing. I wasn't yelling, but my voice felt heavier than I wanted it to. Cleo sat up, pushing a strand of hair away from her face. "It's just a joke, babe," she said like it was no big deal. "You know how people are. They always take things the wrong way. It wasn't about you." I moved closer, the space between us closing like something was buzzing in the air. "Then what was it about?" I didn't want to sound pathetic, but I felt like I was practically begging for her to explain. Her eyes narrowed just for a second, and her usual easygoing vibe disappeared. "Look, I know you get it. You've been in my corner, but I'm out here grinding, making things happen. You can't just wait around for stuff to magically appear, can you? So yeah, I make do with what I have. What's the big deal with enjoying it a bit?" There it was. The whole truth, or at least how she saw it. In her head, everything I did was just business. She was so wrapped up in her art, in her reputation, that she forgot I was a human being, not a credit card, not a rung on her ladder. I just stood there, letting the silence hang in the air. It was heavy, like a ton of bricks. Then I asked her something that had been bugging me, something I'd never actually said out loud. "Ever think about what would happen if I stopped footing the bill, if I stopped being the one who always bilaid you out?" Her eyes darted away, and she mumbled something under her breath, something like, "Don't even go there." But she didn't disagree. She didn't even try to act like that wasn't her reality. I wasn't finished. I went to my desk and pulled up my email. It took me a sec, but when I found it, I felt my stomach drop. There it was. The email from the gallery Cleo was desperate to get into. The one that was supposed to make her art career take off. The one I kept telling her to get serious about. The subject line read, "Final Confirmation Art Show," and a little note underneath made me feel sick. The email was for me, not Cleo. I just clicked it open, and what I saw was a total gut punch. It wasn't just a regular, "Okay, you're in email about the show." It was an invitation for a solo exhibit, a chance for Cleo to have her own show, to get her name out there, to be the star. It was everything she'd been hoping for. But here's the thing. The email wasn't meant for Cleo. It landed in my inbox because I was the one communicating with them. I'd been hustling, trying to get her work noticed. I was the one who'd paid for her portfolio, for the website, for all the art supplies. They knew who was really running the show. I just couldn't wrap my head around it all. The anger, the sheer bewilderment, the feeling like I'd been completely backstabbed, it all hit me at once. I went back to the living room, phone clutched in my hand, my grip so tight my knuckles were white. "So this is the email you didn't tell me about, right?" I showed her the screen, my voice ice cold. She looked at it, her face a blank slate at first, and then I saw it, a flash of pure panic in her eyes. It was barely there, but I saw it. She didn't even try to explain. "I've been doing all the work," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've been pushing for you, and you couldn't even tell me about this? You didn't think I deserved to know?" Cleo opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She stood there, arms up like she was shielding herself, but I couldn't even tell what she was protecting anymore, her dreams, or herself. "This isn't the time, Theo," she said, her voice a little shaky. "We have way bigger problems than some stupid email." Then it hit me, everything clicked into place. To her, I was just another prop, another way to boost her image, another paycheck. I wasn't her boyfriend, not her partner, just something she used. "You don't get it, do you?" I said, my voice low. "I missed my mom's funeral. I ditched it to be here for your show, Cleo, and this is how you repay me." Her mouth opened and closed, speechless. I wasn't finished. "And you think this is funny? You think you can just use me and I'll be okay with it?" She gasped for air, then barely whispered, "I never asked you to do any of that, Theo." That was it. The last straw. I just stood there, finally seeing how far I'd let things go, and I couldn't handle it anymore. There was nothing more to say. I grabbed my jacket, the crinkling sound loud in the quiet, and left the apartment. But stepping out into the hall, I knew I'd made a choice, and everything I'd been bottling up was about to explode. Before I could even think, I heard her behind me, Cleo. "You can't leave, Theo," she said. "You've already made your decision." She was right on my heels, practically breathing down my neck, and the air between us was thick with tension. But I didn't break stride. I kept going. And that's when it hit me this wasn't just about Mom anymore or what Cleo pulled. This was something way bigger. I had tons of options, but in that moment, turning back wasn't one of them. I didn't even flinch when she yelled my name. The weight of everything that had been brewing between us felt like it was pinning me to the ground. But weirdly, I also felt this amazing clarity, this freedom. I was done. It wasn't just the stupid TikTok thing. It wasn't just skipping Mom's funeral. It was how she'd used me for everything, her art, her rent, even her social media, and then had the nerve to act like I was the bad guy for finally speaking up. I practically ran down the stairs, not even bothering to grab my keys, my phone, nothing. I wasn't going to let her suck me back in. I needed to breathe, to think, to figure things out. By the time I hit the street, the cool night air was a shock, and for the first time in ages, I felt like I was making a choice for myself. I wasn't gonna stew in anger. I wanted to use it, turn it into something I could control, something that would finally make her really see how much she'd taken me for granted. As soon as I unlocked the door to my tiny, messy apartment, my laptop was the first thing I reached for. I didn't even hang up my coat. I dove right into my email and began sifting through the mountain of messages I'd exchanged over the past year with Cleo's gallery contacts. It was easy to spot the ones where I was the topic of conversation. I'd saved everything, every single email, every single confirmation. I was the one who'd been communicating with curators, organizing her private viewings, setting up all those meetings. Without even realizing it, I'd been her kind of undercover manager or maybe a PR person. Now I knew exactly what I needed to do. I started typing up a few emails. They were friendly, businesslike, and painfully clear. I explained that I'd been working with Cleo, that I was the main point of contact. However, due to personal issues, I couldn't continue any longer. I wasn't going to be mean about it, not yet anyway. But I wanted to make it crystal clear that I was the one running the show, that I'd been the one keeping everything together. And now I was stepping away. I couldn't keep being her financial support. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I didn't hit send right away. I needed a strategy. I wanted to make sure Cleo felt the impact of this. But I also wanted to give her the chance to handle things herself. I guess she just assumed I'd always be around, you know? That I'd always be the one to clean up her messes, handle the money stuff, and smooth things over when she screwed up. But I had a little something brewing on my own, a little secret. While Cleo was off playing the misunderstood artist, chasing after these big dreams, I'd been quietly working on my own thing. I'd been slowly, steadily building my freelance business on the side. I didn't really talk about it much. Cleo never asked, and honestly, I didn't see the need to say anything. But it was taking off. Actually, it was going really well. I had a few clients who were practically begging me to take on bigger projects. Projects I'd been putting on hold, figuring I had to support Cleo's dreams first. It wasn't just about getting back at her, though. It was for me. I was finally going to give myself a shot, something I'd been putting off for ages, but I needed more than just the work itself. I needed Cleo to get it, that this wasn't about being mean or vindictive. It was about fairness, and I'd given and given until I was completely tapped out. She needed to realize how much she leaned on me, without ever really noticing. I started making a mental list of everything I'd done for her, everything I'd given up. I replayed those lonely evenings in my head when I was just sitting there, waiting for her to return from those networking things. They were really just glorified cocktail parties with people she barely knew. I also remembered footing the bill for her gallery fees because she was broke. And then there was the time I let her borrow my car, after hers crapped out for the third time in a couple of months. I even cheered her on when I really wanted to yell at her to get it together. I wasn't going to make her pay in a typical way. This wasn't about hurting her physically or even hitting her in the wallet, not directly anyway. It was about making sure she got it. I wanted her to see just how little she'd accomplished by herself, how little she was without me. I paused, shutting my laptop for a second. The quiet in my place was heavy. I could hear the fridge humming again, but this time it felt different. It felt like the hush before something big was about to happen. I was going to do something, but I had to be careful. I knew Cleo's gallery had another event coming up, a smaller, more exclusive showing for some artists they were collaborating with. I'd seen who was going to be in it. They were banking on her name to draw people in. But I also knew Cleo couldn't care less about her promises. She'd ditch anything if something better came along, so I made another choice. I contacted the event organizer, the one I'd been secretly working with. I told them the whole truth. This isn't about Mom, not yet anyway. It was all about how Cleo was screwing up, missing her deadlines, breaking her promises. I didn't make her sound like a total villain, but I wasn't gonna lie about what she was doing either. I didn't want to get her kicked out of the show, but I made sure the organizers knew what was going on. When the reply came back, it was like something clicked inside me. Cleo had no clue what was about to hit her, and it was more than just the art show. It was about showing her that there are consequences for her actions, that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't always going to be the one to fix everything. I was taking charge, and it felt amazing. The last email I sent was to Cleo. I kept it short. I told her I wouldn't be back to the apartment tonight, that I needed some space, and that she needed to rethink how she was treating me. And also, maybe, just maybe, she should start thinking about how she'd been using people her whole life. I didn't expect her to write back. Honestly, I didn't want her to. But I knew something was about to change. Her world was about to shrink, and I was going to be the one making sure she noticed. The apartment felt empty, like it was swallowing me whole. My phone lay face down on the coffee table, a tiny, nagging reminder of everything I was leaving behind. Everything I wasn't going to put up with anymore. I wasn't just walking away from Cleo. I was leaving behind the person who let this situation go on for so long. I crashed at my friend's place that night. I just couldn't face Cleo, and honestly, I needed a break from all the games and the craziness. But it wasn't just about dodging her. I was waiting for something, waiting for her to get it, to understand what she'd done. The next morning, I got the first hint things were changing. Cleo called. I didn't answer. I didn't want to listen to the usual stuff, the excuses, the pleading, the weak apologies. I let it ring, then hit ignore and texted her real quick. I need space, Cleo. We gotta talk, but not right now. I kind of figured she'd freak out, but nothing. No angry texts, no over-the-top drama, just dead air. And that quiet, that was exactly what I needed. It gave me space to keep going, to really lock down the boundaries I'd set. It was actually a relief, in a weird way, knowing I was finally calling the shots. A couple of days later, I met up with the gallery organizer. Her name was Marissa, and we talked a bunch about Cleo's art and her upcoming shows. Marissa had always been nice but professional, and I liked that. I wasn't sure what to expect when I emailed her, but when we sat down, she totally got it. I knew something was up, she said quietly, like she didn't want to make things worse. Cleo's a good artist, but she's been tough to deal with. Honestly, we'd been after her for weeks, and she already blew 2 deadlines for the show. It was pretty irritating, to be real. A weird feeling of like justice just flooded over me. I didn't do anything mean, but realizing Cleo wasn't fooling anyone else but me felt amazing. I spilled everything. How I was the one basically doing all her emails, how I was really pushing for her to succeed, even when she wasn't taking it seriously. I didn't trash talk her, just put out the facts. When I was done, Marissa leaned back, sighing. I think it's time we rethink her being in the event, she said. I get it if you want out, but I want to thank you for telling me. It means a lot to have someone looking out for the gallery. I'm not leaving, I told her. But Cleo needs to own up to what she's done. She can't just keep expecting people to fix her mistakes. Marissa nodded. Totally, I'll talk to her myself, but it's obvious she's been leaning on others to get things done. And that was that. Cleo's solo show? Canceled. No spotlight for her, which she was definitely expecting. I didn't want to ruin her career, but I wanted her to see that you can't just expect to succeed by using people. After I emailed the gallery, they agreed to give her another look. The person in charge said she'd get a chance to prove herself if she was really committed. For a little while, things were calm. I turned my attention to my own life. My freelance work, which had always been on the back burner, suddenly took center stage. I started landing more clients, growing my contacts, and even talked to some local businesses that wanted to work with me long-term. It was weird pouring all my energy into my own stuff instead of always helping someone else chase their dreams, but it felt good. Like I was finally taking back a part of myself I'd been too afraid to claim. Cleo, though, didn't reach out at first. No texts, no calls, no showing up to smooth things over. I thought about her a lot during that time. Was she pissed? Did she think I'd screwed her over? I really had no idea. But I had to remember that her feelings weren't my problem anymore. A week went by, then another. And then Cleo finally contacted me, but it wasn't what I thought it would be. She sent a long message. It was full of apologies, yeah, but it wasn't just about what she'd done recently. She said she was sorry for everything. For the way she'd used me, for using me to get ahead without ever appreciating the things I gave up. And in her message, she admitted she was partly to blame for how she'd acted. But she also asked me to think about things again. So she hit me up, asking if we could, try again, like start fresh. She said she finally got it how much she'd pushed me away and wanted to take things super slow this time. Man, it was a tough call. A big part of me still had feelings for her. And a tiny sliver of hope was still clinging on that maybe she could change. But honestly, I'd changed. I'd grown so much while we were apart. Going back, that was just asking for the same old drama all over again. I took a deep breath and typed back. I think we're just too different now, Cleo, I wrote. I've learned a ton about myself these past few weeks. And look, I'll always care about you, but I gotta keep moving forward. For me. I hoped she'd understand that was it. The last we ever talked. Radio silence after that. My life now, completely different. My freelance work is going great. I've gotten some awesome offers for bigger gigs, and I finally feel like I'm building something real, something totally mine. And Cleo. Yeah, she's still out there doing her art thing. But from what little I've seen, not much has changed. She's still not taking ownership of her stuff. And I think that's always gonna hold her back. But me, I'm finally free. It's been a long time coming.